up, guys? Winter Kills here. Welcome back to a brand new and updated deck profile. This time around for Shaddoll Trains. It's been quite a while since I've updated this deck, but I just really haven't been too interested as of late. But I've seen this deck has had some recent successes at regionals and things like that, which is super cool because I think this deck has always had a lot of potential to be competitive. Just how easily it does its job of OTKing. But yeah, still one of my favorite decks of all time, and I figured I'd bring you guys an update before the year is over. I'll also try to be getting an update for the Pure Mech Knight deck before the year's end as well, so you have that to look forward to. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into the profile, and of course, real quick shout out to Imperium Duelist, link to the website down in the description below. Use that discount code to save 10% off your entire order, and also check out my affiliate link to TCG Player down in the description below as well to help support the channel just by using that link at no cost to you. So let's go ahead and get into the profile. Of course, the profile is going to be real quick. 3 Heavy Freight Train Derek Crane, 3 copies of Super Express Bullet Train, 2 copies of Night Express Knight, 3 copies of Flying Pegasus Railroad Stampede, 2 copies of Infinitrack Brutal Dozer, I'll explain this card later, 2 copies of Infinitrack Anchor Drill, and 2 copies of Ruffian Railcar, and then lastly for some of the big machine monsters, 2 Jizukiru the Star Destroying Kaiju. Now, I am still playing the Shaddoll Engineer because I still think it is a really, really good engine. We have 1 copy of Beast and 1 copy of Dragon. And then for some hand traps, just 2 copies of Ash Blossom and Joy's Spring. Now we'll move on to the spells, where we have 3 copies of Shaddoll Fusion. Next up, we have 3 copies of Pot of Desires, 3 copies of Urgent Schedule, aka Why is this card so expensive, 3 copies of Revolving Switchyard, 2 copies of Cosmic Cyclone, 1 Terraforming, and for the traps, last but not least, we say no to your back row with 2 copies of Red Reboot. Now we'll move on to the extra deck. To start, we have 2 copies of Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Juggernaut Lieb, 2 copies of number 81 Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Super Dora, 2 copies of Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Gustav Max, 1 copy of True King of All Calamities, and then we have 2 copies of El Shaddoll Shakanaga, and then for our links, 1 Borolo Dragon, 1 Cliffort Genius, and 2 copies of the Double-Headed Anger Knuckle, 1 Pentastag, and 1 Infinitrack Goliath. And that'll round out the full main and extra deck. Now we'll go into the breakdown. Alright, so now we'll move on to the starter cards, and this deck is pretty weird when it comes to cards that you could consider starters. And these are just the ones that I have selected for the time being. Of course, it is open to interpretation. But the cards that we want to see first, cards that help get our engine going and allow us to start our plays, have easy activation requirements, things like that. So I'm just going to piece all of these out here. So yeah, as you can see, pretty standard lineup of cards here for the most part. And I'm still opting, like I said, to play the Shaddoll engine because I still think it is really, really strong in the grand scheme of things. Let me move all this stuff up here. So first things first, why Infinitrack Anchor Drill as a starter card? Well, this card is pretty great is because it just allows us to get summons on board easy. And I guess for a lot of cards in here, you could consider cards like Ruffian Railcar, Brutal Dozer, Stampede, pretty much anything you can normal summon or get on the board super easy as a starter card. For a good reason, and that main reason is because it'll allow us to get cards like Bullet Train on board and Derek Crane on board, which help us get into our link plays like Double-Headed Anger Knuckle, which helps us make rank 10 plays, which ultimately helps us OTK, which is what this deck wants to do. But Anchor Drill on its own right just normals itself and then can summon 1 from your hand, Earth Machine. And then it can allow you to, trigger other things like Derek Crane, make your Bullet Train live, etc., etc. Same thing with Night Express Knight. It's a level 10 that you can just outright normal summon at no extra cost, can trigger your Revolving Switchyard, or trigger your Derek Crane to get that on board to get right into your rank 10 play, which can just be enough at the end of the day to just punch for game. Revolving Switchyard, this card does so much. This card is absolutely, absurd. I just wish Terraforming was, at, not 1. So you could play more copies of these cards. But basically, what this card allows you to do is play either on your opponent's turn, OTK, be able to, OTK easier because you can search out cards with this, because you can use its first effect. If a level 10 Earth Machine monster is normal or special summon on the field except during the damage step, you can activate this effect. Your opponent takes no damage for the rest of this turn. Even this card leaves the field, no battle damage, that is. And also special summon 1 level 4 Earth Machine monster with 1800 more attack from your deck, and if you do, it becomes level 10. So, with that being said, you can use this card in combination with Double-Headed Anger Knuckle to be able to, you know, summon a Earth Machine monster on your opponent's turn and trigger this field spell to summon out a bunch of monsters and basically block damage. And if they kill all those cards, you get a bunch of resources back in the end phase. So this card does come in clutch for that. Also, discard a card to be able to search a level 10 Earth Machine from your deck to your hand. That also comes insanely clutch as well. And the first effect is really clutch. Even if you have to go first and you just normal summon like, you know, Pegasus, and then you summon out Derek Crane, use Pegasus effect, you know, copy levels and to make them both level 10, and you can just go on from there. So really, really great card. Now this deck is a going second deck for sure, 100%. But will you be able to go first or go second all the time? Probably not, but more likely than not, I would say that you would, because a lot of the best decks of the format right now want you to go second because they want to go first. So Shaddoll Fusion is one of those cards that's interesting. It can be live when you do have to go first if you hard open any of the Shaddoll cards, and this card basically supercharges your entire turn. It gets you a level 10 on field, which triggers again your Derek Crane and makes your Bullet Train live. Gets cards like Ruffian Railcard in the graveyard for end phase searches, gets you Beast of the Grave to draw a card, gets you a level 10 on board that is just really powerful in its own right. So this card is absolutely amazing. Then of course, 3 Pot of Desires, standard theme for most starter cards in most of the decks that I build, because it's just allowing you to see more cards at the end of the day. And if your hand is bad and this can fix it, it's a plus, because it just allows you to play Yu-Gi-Oh at the end of the day. And you got to play 3, I think, in this particular build, just because if you see this card, it'll allow you to see more resources, would allow you to OTK. In most places, you're getting your turn started with this card, or using it as an extender. So this card can kind of serve a couple different roles, but since it is draw power, I would put it in the starter category. And then Terraforming, of course, because it's getting us our, you know, our 4th copy of the Switchyard. So 100%. And Shaddoll Fusion, most notably, could also be considered a extender in of its own right, but I would also just consider it a starter, just strictly for this video, because it does a lot for our engine. So now we'll go ahead and look at the superior extenders. All right, so now we have here the superior extenders. These are the cards that allow us to make our starting plays more powerful, do have a bit heavier of an activation requirement, but of course overall do increase the power level of our plays. And these are some of the more important cards in the deck, of course. We have 3 Derek Crane, 3 Bullet Train, 3 Stampede, and of course the 3 copies of the Urgent Schedule. These cards are all fantastic. They all help us achieve that one goal of, you know, making a rank 10, getting bodies on board to link with to help make rank 10s, and just OTK. Of course, Derek Crane is like the centerpiece of the entire deck. If an Earth Machine monster is normal or special, you can summon it from your hand, but its attack and defense are halved. Who cares? And if it's detached, you get to pop a card on the field, which is amazing. So that card just comes in amazing. So this card just comes in clutch all the time. This card you're going to be using time and time again to be able to make super, super strong plays. And it just looks so good and super rare, of course. But yeah, moving on, we have the 3 copies of the Super Express Bullet Liner, Bullet Train, whatever you want to call it. This card, again, can only be getting on the field if you already have an Earth Machine monster on your field. You need to have 1. So if you don't control all Earth Machine monsters, you can't summon this guy. And this card, again, requires having that card being already in play. So these guys are most certainly not going to be the first things you start your turn with on turn 1 especially. So that's why they come after, you know, in the sort of the chain of command after the starter cards. Railroad Stampede, this card you could consider a starter, but I would consider an additional extender because it will require you to get something in the graveyard first in order to make it live. Because when this card is normal summon, you can target an Earth Machine monster in your graveyard except itself and special summon it. But I believe its effects are negated, yes. And then you can target one other face-up monster on the field and basically copy the level. So you can use this to target this, and then this card becomes this card's level. So yeah, you can make them basically a rank 10. You could also make a rank 8. I was considering playing Dingirsu in the extra deck, which is another option. But again, this card requires a card in the graveyard as setup. But this card is also still amazing because you can still use a card like Shaddoll Fusion to start your turn, or a card like your Field Spell to start your turn. Get a card in your graveyard to set up for this to extend upon those plays, and make even better plays. Yeah, so this card is just absolutely amazing. Then Urgent Schedule is just absurd. Just summon a level 4 and a level 10 from your deck, pretty much at no cost to you, and then just, make absurd plays from there. And it is a quick play, which is really nice. If they destroy this card, you get to add a level 10 Earth Machine from your deck, which is nice, or just a level 10 machine, I believe, so you can search Jizukiru, which is great removal. Yeah, so, like, this card, only live going second. This card will pretty much never be live going first, if you have to go first, unless they have, like, a Phantasme or something and, whatever else, and you're able to clear your field. Then you can make Urgent Schedule live turn 1, I suppose, but this card will most never be live going second, or going first, but you can always make it live going second when your opponent starts playing. And then if you have this and combine with a field spell, you can really start playing and popping off on your opponent's turn, which is exactly what this deck can do well. So now we'll go ahead and take a look at the additional extenders. So these are the cards that I have decided to select as the additional extenders for the deck. And now you're seeing Infinitrack Anchor Drill in here, which you saw it was a starter. But this card you could also consider to be an additional extender for a couple reasons, and I'll explain in just a moment. So, yeah, the Anchor Drill, again, we talked about how you can summon a lot of things during your opponent's turn off of the field spell. Anchor Drill is one of those cards, and the card that you summon out off of the field spell, it isn't negated. So you can use Anchor Drill as a way to summon out an additional card from your hand during your opponent's turn. And I guess you could consider the Railroad Stampede sort of as the same thing to be able to revive something from grave. But you can go Anchor Drill, and then Anchor Drill summon Pegasus, then Pegasus and summon from grave. And then you just summon 3 monsters on your opponent's turn. And they're just waiting to be cleared so you can get more effects. So this is one of those cards alongside Stampede that you could also consider as like an additional extender. But it's nice, though, that multiple cards can serve multiple roles because it just makes the deck as a whole a bit more flexible. But Brutal Dozer. This is a new card. Newer. I believe it came out in Chaos Impact, and I've been waiting for this card because I've been wanting to try it out in this deck for a while. But basically what it does is you contribute 1 Earth Machine monster, special summon this card from your hand in defense position. If this card is special summoned from the hand, you can special summon 1 Infinitrack monster from your deck in defense position, except Infinitrack Brutal Dozer, but negate its effects. Also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except Earth Machine monsters. So that restriction really never applies to us because we're always going to be basically summoning Earth Machines. That's basically the basic game plan of this deck. But if you have a normal summon of like Ruffian Railcar, or maybe you have like a normal summon of Ruffian Railcar and just a field spell, this card allows to turn like mediocre fields into better fields because you can special summon this, tribute this, and then summon out another monster from deck like the Anchor Drill and just make more link plays and give yourself more opportunities to be able to trigger out your Ruffian, or not your Ruffian Railcar, but your Derek Cranes in hand, making your Bullet Liners live, and also being able to trigger your field spell. So it's a neat little extender. I don't know if I'll continue to run it, but it is a really nice option. I've always been wanting to try this card in here, and I tested a bit on stream, and it was proving to actually be pretty nice overall, and I think 2 copies is fine. But another interesting thing that you can do, and the reason I was playing VFD in the extra deck, is if you normal summon this guy and use his effect to special summon 1 from hand, and you open the Brutal Dozer, you can use his effect to make them both level 9, because he will gain the level of this monster that he's targeting, unlike the Pegasus. Pegasus makes them both the same level of the monster that you target. This card allows you to basically just gain the levels. Target one other machine monster you control. The levels of that monster, both that monster and this card, become the combined original level of those 2 monsters. So you can use this and this, become combined levels of 9, and then you overlay for VFD. So if you happen to open these cards going first, you can use them to make VFD, which can just outright steal games. So it's just a pretty cool interaction there. And then again, Ruffian Railcar, it really doesn't do much on its own for a normal summon, but, end phase searches of level 10 Earth Machine monsters from your deck is really nice, I heard. So really good card there. And then Beast allows you just to dig deeper into the deck to draw more cards. Now, the next word I want to talk about is just simply engine requirements, and that being Beast and, Shaddoll Dragon. These cards you have to play if you're playing the Shaddoll engine. You need Shaddoll monsters to be able to send to the grave off Shaddoll Fusion, so these are a must. You have to play them if you're playing the Shaddoll engine. And then we have some sort of chainable defense, which are in terms of, cards like Ash Blossom. These cards can be activated in multiple different scenarios, so pretty flexible. And then we have a lot of re-raise ceiling cards like Red Reboot and Cosmic Cyclone, that help clear, cards that are hindering us from playing. Good spot removal. This deck does need a lot of spot removal. That's why I'm also opting to play the 2 Jizukirus. Not only is it searchable off of the bullet liner in the grave, you know, this card is just really nice, and the fact that you can add it back from your graveyard is super cool. And you can search it off of your urgent schedule if it gets destroyed because it's a level 10 machine. But yeah, a lot of spot removal in this deck because our core focus is just OTKing. So we can go out of our way to play a lot of spot removal, and especially other forms of sort of engine, you know, in-engine removal like Shaddoll Dragon is really nice. And then this card just is basically the win button essentially in most cases. If you have full combo, just getting a rank 10 on board, a red reboot can be really nice to sort of seal the deal. So that's sort of the main deck breakdown. Now we'll just go into the extra deck real quick. All right, so taking a look at the extra deck, of course, we have our fusions, Xyz, and links. Basically, for the fusions, yeah, this is like an extender. It's also a defensive card because it does have its effect to be able to negate things, which is pretty nice, but it's never really going to come up that much. Just really an extender, essentially, the end product of your Shaddoll fusion. Level 10 Earth Machine, again, triggering the Daracrane, giving you access to the bullet train. So definitely needed. Floodgate card, of course, and of course things that allow us to essentially win the game. More so these 4 than the number 81s. This is just more defense because, again, if we cannot OTK, if we have to go first, we want a card that we can be able to make as defense. But these are just our win cards that we need to play, our basic win condition, essentially, if you will. So more defense there. And then looking at the links, we have Borlo Dragon strictly for removal because this deck sometimes will have problems dealing with cards like Avermax, which everybody can sort of make really easily now with the you know, IP Masquerena. So this card I think is kind of needed essentially as an out. This card just an additional extension option. But, you know, just being allowing things off and get graveyard effects at the end of the day. Double-headed Anger Knuckle. Again, this card is hands down probably the best card in the extra deck. It's an extender. It's defensive because it can trigger your field spell during your opponent's turn to block damage. So this card is really nice. This is just sort of like an alternate win con, allow you to pierce with your, you know, your Juggernaut Leap. And then Goliath. This card is also a bit defensive as well because its effect to attach itself to something and make it so it can't be destroyed by card effects. So it just allows you to push for game a bit more there. So yeah, a lot of defense in the extra deck, but the deck kind of needs it. And basically your win condition exists within your extra deck as well. So kind of important to have all that stuff there. But now we'll talk about like side decking. The side deck is something I'll put up on the screen real quick, sort of like a mock side deck. But things you could side out would be like cards like the Brutal Dozer. Depending on the matchup, you could also side out the Cosmic Cyclones and the Red Reboots if they're not playing too much back row. You could also probably get away with siding out maybe a Stampede or the Shaddoll Fusions entirely. Again, if you're playing against something like True Draco or decks that just don't rely on the extra deck, siding out maybe one Desires. I wouldn't go more than that. But yeah. A lot of room to side deck things out, and it's of course all matchup dependent. Really, you could even get away with siding out an Anchor Drill as well, or maybe a Jizukiru also. So those are just some small things that you can think about when side decking with a deck like this. So now we're gonna go ahead and do a quick test hand to sort of round out the video. All right, so I've shuffled the deck quite a bit. Let's go ahead and draw into our first hand here and see what we can do. Basically, we're trying to OTK. We're going to do a going second test hand and just see what we have to be able to put up. And so far, looking very, very strong. This hand is absolutely insane. We're definitely OTKing with this hand. Let's say we're playing against like Orcus or whatever, and they have that IP on board. We're just going to slap this Jizukiru right on top of it, no problem. And then we're going to resolve our urgent schedule before we go any further. And we're going to summon out a copy of, let's see here. We can summon out this and then a copy of, what don't we have access to? So we want to get Daracrane in play because we don't have access to him just yet. But of course we do have our field spell to be able to get it if we want. But we'll summon out these two for sure. Now from here we're going to use Revolving Switchyard, use its discard effect. We'll discard the Infinitrack, Anchor Drill to the graveyard to be able to add Night Express Knight. And then from here you can sort of see where this is going to go. We'll normal this, and then actually, yeah, it doesn't matter. Like, we could have searched another Daracrane if we wanted to actually, and we could have normal this to special this and then summon out the Derek Crane. So that's actually what we'll leave the Night Express just in case anything goes south. We have a follow-up normal summon for next turn, so we'll keep that. Now we'll link. Well, first we're going to normal summon this, and then we're going to use the Bullet Train to summon itself out. We'll link these two off into a copy of our Anger Knuckle, just because we want to get this card established soon. And then we'll overlay these two into our rank 10. And it's, of course, you always want to go for the Gustav Max first. You know, burn for 2k, destroy something else on their field, or destroy this if it's their only monster that they have. And then you're going to overlay quickly into a copy of the Juggernaut Lieb. Yeah, and then pretty much from here, you're just going to outright go for game, because this goes up to 6k and can attack twice. So if you've already cleared this out of the way, you know, you're attacking 6k directly, and they've already took in 2k damage. But if they still have like a Galatea on field, you know, you can attack over this at 6k and then attack over the Galatea, which is going to be game since you've already burned for that 2000. And then again on your opponent's turn, if they do live a turn, which is very much a possibility, and also probably want to detach the Bullet Train instead of the Gustav Max, just so you get that end phase effect and be able to add back the Kaiju. That's really important, because if you do end up clearing this Kaiju and you do have a Bullet Train in the end phase, you can use the Bullet Train to give yourself this Kaiju back to be able to clear another problem next turn. But yeah, so during their turn, if they do live, you can use the double-headed Anger Knuckle, tribute itself, and then be able to summon something from grave like this, and then be able to use the field spell in combination to be able to summon out another Pegasus. That's going to do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Try to make it as quick and as informative as I possibly can. I know with this new deck profile format, you guys have been really liking it, which is great. I'm just trying to streamline these videos a bit more so I can get all the information out to you guys as quickly and as clearly as I possibly can, but feel free to leave any questions or comments down in the comment section below on what you guys think. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. As always, Winter Kill signing out. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Can't you see what we're about?